A local member, Andrew Constance, and more than anything, a true friend to the community and a true friend to me personally. This morning, Andrew and I spent a number of meetings talking to communities still devastated by the impact of the bushfires. And what I want to say to the community of the far south coast and the south coast of New South Wales is you are not forgotten. We know the rebuilding effort is still a long way to its conclusion, and we know the pain and suffering that communities are still experiencing, and I heard it and saw it firsthand today. And I just want to let everybody know in the community that we will continue to work with you to allow you to get back to a quality of life you had prior to the bushfires, and that is a commitment we continue to make as a government. And I want to thank Andrew Constance for his outstanding advocacy, but also the outstanding compassion he shows to his community and the way in which he's working with them to get through some very difficult obstacles. And part of the obstacle is the trauma that people are still going through. And the ability for us to come together and support them is critical at this time. And I just wanted to, in Andrew's presence, say that the New South Wales Government remains committed to that process. And today is a wonderful opportunity for us to demonstrate to the community what a difference a bridge can make. It's always pleasing when you're near completion of a project, but to be able to say that this project is ahead of schedule is very exciting. So by the Easter long weekend, cars will be driving across this brand new bridge, which is months ahead of schedule. Many locals, I think, will wait till they see it, but it is how far ahead of schedule, Andrew?
2023 was when it was supposed to be built.
It was supposed to be built by 2023. So before Easter 2021, cars will be across this brand new bridge. And not only is this a huge boost for safety for locals, including emergency vehicles and freight and just sheer capacity of traffic, but it's also a wonderful boost for the community for tourism. We know during COVID and during the bushfires, many communities, many businesses missed out on those tourists coming to visit this beautiful part of New South Wales. But this road will make it easier, not just for locals, but also, of course, welcoming those tourists and making the journey safer and quicker and more efficient. And within 3 weeks of this bridge opening, the old bridge will start to be dismantled, which I know many in the community are looking forward to. And of course, all consideration will be given to make sure we do it as safely as possible. And I wanted to thank everybody involved in this project, all the teams supporting Transport for New South Wales, in particular John Holland, and we look forward to bringing this project to life and to allowing cars to actually drive across this by Easter long weekend. A huge boost, but also a good demonstration that even though we've had the bushfires and we've had the pandemic, we're still going through the pandemic, we're still able to make sure we're getting on with the job of building New South Wales, building that road infrastructure so critical. Now the Pack Highway finished in northern New South Wales. Now we've got to really put our effort in the Princess Highway, and this upgrade of this bridge is part of that. We want to go all the way down to the Victorian border, and we're getting there. And it's so important for us to upgrade critical roads. Too many accidents, too many times when communities have been ripped apart because of lack of safety. So in addition to, of course, all the benefits that come with the tourists that will come, locals can be assured that safety will be improved. And I'm looking forward on the Easter long weekend when people are using this bridge and benefiting from our government's commitment to build everything as fast as we can, especially in our regions, especially to communities who've been impacted. And I also want to acknowledge that during the course of this infrastructure project, 1,000 people were employed, 1,000 people. Many new apprentices, many from our local Indigenous community, which I was thrilled to hear about. You know, jobs as well as a great project for a great community who's done it tough and is doing it tough is good news all round. And I apologise for being boastful, but now I'll boastfully welcome the outstanding local member and Minister, Andrew Constance.
Thanks, Glenn. Well, good morning, everybody. And first of all, it's so good to have the Premier of New South Wales here. And for Mayor Innes and myself to be able to be joined by Gladys this morning and go and actually touch base with the people who are going through so much with the fires. It's been a very humbling morning to be with so many great people. And of course, you can't come to a community like this without looking at infrastructure. This bridge is the gateway to the region. We aren't the far south coast. I'm hearing phrases, we are the new south coast. And there is a real opportunity for those outside of the region to come and explore the best of fire-affected communities, but at the same time to have this bridge in place is something which is fantastic. The bridge just next to us used to break down, and it was dangerous for our community. No emergency services could get across and all those types of things. So it's not just about being a new bridge, it's about being a safe bridge. And to that end, can I particularly pay tribute to John Holland, who've done an incredible job working with Sam Knight and the team from Transport for New South Wales. To just touch on something that Glad said, might seem foreign to city people, but when you have a 45-year-old Aboriginal woman working for the first time on a project like this, that's life-changing. And I particularly want to pay tribute to our Aboriginal community, our elders, but also particularly to the Land Council, who worked alongside the project team to make sure that those opportunities stemmed for our Aboriginal people. 15% of the workforce on this bridge were Aboriginal people. 45% of the people who worked on this bridge were locals. So to be able to marry up the experience of John Holland, the international and national experience that's been brought to bear with the local community who needed to upskill, has been life-changing for so many. So a big thank you. It is great that it's going to be open to traffic come the end of March. That has shocked the community, believe you me. The community said this had never happened, this project. Well, here you go, here it is. So to those naysayers, you're now yes-sayers, and here it is. Big project, big change for so many in the community, and I just want to particularly pay tribute to the teams. We will be back here in late March, so that'll be a bit of good news, but it's great to be able to showcase the bridge to the Premier, and it couldn't have come at a better time. Given COVID and given the traffic volumes, as particularly those who can't travel internationally have decided to come to the South Coast to be able to holiday, and that's fantastic. So it's good news in that regard. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Questions?
No questions.
Oh, look, there's no doubt that the trauma is still present on the ground, and whilst the vast majority of people have seen good progress, the cleanup, the first stage of the cleanup is complete, but the rebuilding is difficult. And what I saw this morning is people who are still traumatised by the loss, whether it's loss of life, loss of property, the near misses. People are still dealing with that trauma. And when you talk to people working in the recovery centres, you talk to people in the towns who are acting as coordinators, community leaders to bring things together. And it's not even just the dollars we're talking about or the resources, we're talking about people's ability to move forward, and a lot of further care and work needs to happen, and that was obvious to me this morning. But I really appreciated the opportunity to see the community, to see the progress that has been made, and a lot has happened. Can I stress that? A lot of positive things have occurred, a lot of rebuilding has started, but there are still significant parts of some communities who have yet to move forward in the way that we would like, and I just want to let everybody know who has been impacted that you are not forgotten, and that's why I'm here, to make sure that your local member is supported, the community is supported, and we will continue to work with you to find solutions to the challenges that exist, especially around housing, and part of the challenge is supply. Everybody wants to live down here, even workers getting jobs are finding it difficult to find accommodation. So there's lots of businesses who want to employ people, but those who are applying for the jobs are finding it difficult to find somewhere to live. We know this area is in demand, but there's also a cohort of the population who are still displaced and living in temporary accommodation, and our job is to find them permanent homes. And unfortunately, there's no quick fix. It's not going to happen overnight. It will take time. But I know that state government, working with local government, will find solutions and way forwards as soon as we can.
30 people without a temporary accommodation aid on locals. Is that good enough? And what kind of timeline, you're saying not overnight, what kind of timeline are you telling them today? What are they looking at?
Well, the challenge we have, and I don't blame people, is wanting to stay on their property, even though their house isn't there anymore. They have a connection to their land, they have animals, they want the kids to have the routine of school. So for people who want to stay in the local area, in the close proximity to where their home was, that is the biggest challenge. So we're trying to accommodate everybody's choices. Some people have chosen to move to other towns, some people have been able to start rebuilding in near town, but the challenge for us remains there are still too many people who haven't commenced the rebuilding process, and we're trying to assist them in every way we can. I'm not sure if Andrew wants to say anything further to that.
Sure. Yeah. Tom, when you lose 1,000 homes in your region, the reality is the supply's not there, and people are looking for options. But you know, every individual's different. I think it's fair to say, I mean, we had such an incredible clean-up with Lang O'Rourke, which was really helpful. But you know, we know that there are people struggling, and I think that's the message. We've got to have an honest recovery. The greater majority of people have been able to get on, which is fantastic, and that's, to Glad's point, there is a very positive step happening here. But we can't have people living in temporary solutions forever, and that's why a concerted effort's got to go in, particularly given the degree of underinsurance that happened, that we don't see a repeat of that. I mean, the building requirements have kept pace with what's needed to try and keep people safe and homes survive fires. But unfortunately, the underinsurance has been a major problem. So we've got to find a way through it as a community, but we can't just rest on government. It's got to be everybody, and I think today it's fair to say, I mean, having met with the Mogo community, the Tomakin community and the Maria Recovery Centre, the scale of this is massive, and people are doing their level best. And the best thing about you know, now we're seeing the COVID vaccine is that will give confidence many of the volunteers to come back to the regions, continue to help people rebuild, and that's exciting.
So at the time you said you wanted the Prime Minister to open this checkbook. Has there been enough federal funding? Is it pulled through fast enough?
Well, I think it's fair to say the way in the Commonwealth and the state have worked together in terms of that funding has been remarkable. I mean, absolutely remarkable. And what we're seeing though now is, you know, we have grant programs which people are trying to apply for, but they're so fatigued and tired, so we're trying to help them through that. You know, I think the big thing is that, you know, we've got a lot of people here who want to be able to be supported, but at the same time we've got a lot of people who just go about their business quietly, and it does worry me in that regard. But the Commonwealth opened their chequebook, which was fantastic. The charities have put in a greater effort since I nudged them a little bit, and of course the state has been remarkable, and I think we've got a long way to go. Recovery after an event like this, I mean, it's the largest wildfire in the globe's history. We can't walk away from that fact, and we've got so much we have to look at in terms of the response. The Mayor and I'll tell you, I mean, the biggest fear people are experiencing at the moment, the way the bush is growing back with black wattle, and the thickness of it, the same rate over such a large landmass, we know the fires are going to come again. And, you know, so people are even starting to think about the next event. So we've got a lot of work to do. Of course, you throw in a whole raft of impacts. People want to contribute in a positive way to land management, helping their local community recover. Obviously, the ongoing issues around climate change, all these things. So that's important, but we just can't forget, and I think the big issue which is affecting us all is mental health. And that's where we've got to make sure, certainly working with the Commonwealth, that those services and those supports are there for many for forever, because some people will never ever get over this and what happened. And so that's important.
Has there been enough coordination and communication between the different layers of government, you know, from federal down to state and even local?
Well, look, I mean, Andrew Colvin's around, and Shane has definitely been here. I mean, you know, Shane was here at the anniversary, which was remarkable, and then, of course, the work that Council are doing. But I think one of the things I would observe about it is that there's a lot of community champions amongst our community who've gone above and beyond, and people have turned to them so much that they're actually getting tired and fatigued. the post-traumatic stress disorders that have been brought to bear by the event, that is a very real problem for every one of us. There's too many triggers, and so that's taking a lot of time for people to get over. I'm sure the fiery that I spoke to on the weekend won't mind me saying this, but he's awake at 3 o'clock in the morning pretty much every day, still thinking about those flames. And so we've got a lot of people that have got to be cared for, and that's going to take, in many cases, a lifelong commitment.
Just on the COVID vaccine a day, can you give us a bit of a report card? How many people were vaccinated?
Yes.
Were it successful? Any
Yes.
reactions?
In New South Wales, we had around 1,300 people vaccinated yesterday, which was a fantastic achievement. I'm really pleased with that. And of course, that will scale up. We have every intention of vaccinating at least 35,000 people in the first 3 weeks. And so far, the response has been very positive and enthusiastic. But as you know, we keep a close eye on every single person who's received the vaccine and make sure that everything goes to plan. And I'm really looking forward to the next few weeks rolling on. It is a game changer for us. It gives people working at the coalface with people who've got the disease that extra bit of confidence, that extra bit of security, and that reassurance, not just for their own safety but those of their loved ones. So I'm really pleased with what we've done. Every day, every state feeds in their numbers to the Commonwealth, because the Commonwealth also tabulates what they're doing in their aged care centres. So the figure I've given you is just what we've done in our 3 state government hospitals. It doesn't include the people in aged care facilities, or sorry, I should say aged care homes, who've also received the vaccine. So we feed our numbers into the Commonwealth, and they have a daily tally, I think, which they're publicly releasing. But I'm very pleased with how things went yesterday, and it's because literally our staff, our health experts, and everybody coordinated in the vaccination program literally did a number of dress rehearsals. We've been preparing for that day for a long time, and everything went like clockwork. And I just want to thank everybody involved. And from what I understand, that the response from people who received the vaccine has also been very positive.
And how's the communication been with the federal government? Yesterday you said you weren't sure how many people in aged care homes were getting the vaccine. Do you think there's been enough effective communication?
Yeah, well, obviously I'm looking forward to having another briefing tomorrow on where we're at, and clearly I have a very good picture on what New South Wales is doing, and I'm looking forward to us ramping that up. I'm also asking for regular updates if there is a change in supply, because then we can bring forward some of our program as well. And every state has a different system and is moving at different paces, but obviously we have the largest population, especially the largest cohort of people working in quarantine. We're bringing home 3,000 Australians every week, which is more than half of the entire country's returned Australians. I think now it's nearly 2/3, because Victoria's out of action. So we are wearing the overwhelming burden's not really the right word, but we are carrying the responsibility for that. And of course, that's why I'm really, really keen to get the vaccine rolled out as soon as possible. We're very fortunate in New South Wales. We don't have any community transmission at this point in time, which allows us to focus on the frontline workers, on people in and around the quarantine system, the people taking all the swabs for the health tests. So it allows us to at least reduce the risk amongst our staff who've been on a knife edge for 13 months. I mean, working with people who have the disease and who may have the disease is a challenge, and I just want to thank everybody. And yesterday for me, the biggest part of the morning for me was just seeing the relief for people who got the jab and thought they had that extra bit of assurance that they don't get the disease or pass it on to their loved one, and that was really, really positive.
What are your thoughts on the travel situation in New Zealand, particularly now that they're trialling a vaccine passport?
Well, look, I've always been very robust and confident about our ability to have the Trans-Tasman bubble. I hope that happens sooner rather than later. There's no reason why it can't. New South Wales has been welcoming people from New Zealand for months without quarantine, and touch wood, we haven't had a single case. There was just a few days when Auckland had that scare where we took extra measures, but in the main, I've always hoped that Prime Minister Ardern would return the favour to New South Wales, because we've certainly been welcoming New Zealanders without quarantine, I think since October, November last year, and to date we've had no issues, and I would hope that they would return the favour. I'm happy to be the first state that offers that opportunity. I'm also going to continue at National Cabinet to press the issue of internal borders within Australia. Now that the vaccine rollout has started, now that we've seen no community transmission for a serious couple of days around the nation, and even when we do have it, we shouldn't shut down borders just because there's a few cases that we might be worried about. That is no way to run our nation internally. I understand the international borders. I don't understand the internal borders. We need to start thinking about the future because we run the risk of being left behind. We've done incredibly well on the health side. We've done incredibly well. But we also need to do well on keeping jobs, keeping the economy growing, and the rest of the world is opening up and we don't want to fall behind. Yes, they still have major challenges with the virus we don't have, but I think we do need to think about how we treat each other as states, and also what happens at the end of October and November when everybody in Australia has access to the vaccine. What does that mean for us in terms of international travel? And I want to start having those conversations now because all of us have to plan for the future to make sure we don't fall behind, to make sure that we continue to lead the world in our response to COVID, both on the health front but also on the economic front as well.
Minister, can you just talk us through...
Oh, sorry, I'll do Liz and the...
International travel. Can you give us an idea of what countries you think might be opened up first, aside from New Zealand, as you've mentioned? Is there a specific...
Well, I think obviously what we would be looking at is to make sure, I mean, some nations have done quite a bit of progress in their vaccine rollout, and of course we're always looking at opportunities we have, and there could be opportunities for us to have travel arrangements, but they would need to be very tight given people from all over the world can travel into different cities and then try and get to Australia. So we have to be very careful about all those considerations, but we need to start having the conversation, we need to start planning for that. And that's why I'm also keen to make sure as Australia, which we are doing, is keeping an eye on the vaccination across the entire globe, because if you do want to resume travel, I'm sure the airlines will have policies about people being vaccinated, which they've already indicated is the case, and the fact that Air New Zealand is already considering the passport for people who've been vaccinated is a positive move, but it also gives us a glimpse to what the future might look like. And that's why I say to everybody, if you're in the minority who doesn't want the vaccine, think twice about it, because life will be easier for people when the vast majority of us have the vaccine, and it'll be easier and safer for you and your family if you do have the vaccine as well.
Minister, on the decision to reduce the speed limit on Cleveland Street, some members of the community are concerned that will force that traffic into surrounding residential streets.
Well, I mean, first of all, obviously a very busy road in Sydney. About 49 of 55 accidents there happen at intersections, particularly at Burke Street, Crown Street. So there's a consultation process underway till the 5th of March. So I'd encourage the local residents to be able to do that. I mean, we don't want to see local streets being used for rat running. So that's why Transport are having a look at that, and as part of that, obviously the speed limit as well. So, obviously it's a fairly congested road. So that's where we're at with it.
Is it only 40 Ks 24 hours a day though, or is that revenue raising?
What do you mean revenue raising?
Well, do people need to
keeping people safe.
When it's not busy?
No, let's be clear, right? And I get my back up over this. Speed limits are set by experts, not politicians with supposedly revenue raising tags. They're put in place to stop accidents, right? So I just want to deal with that myth. So the City of Sydney have been trying to lower the speed limit. If you go and have a look at the number of pedestrian deaths happening on city streets and people walking around like zombies on their phones, we're saying no, we need to obviously be very mindful. So that's what's going on there. And just also, an addendum to that, fine revenue goes into the Community Road Safety Fund to get people to do what they should be doing in the first place, and that's adhering to the road rules. So there's this revenue raising rubbish that I keep hearing about. It's got to stop. The truth is the money goes into community road safety to get people to behave on the roads when they should have been doing that in the first place. Too many people getting killed. So, to that end, the review's on. Transport looking at the speed limit, looking at the no right-hand turns, and looking at that road. And at the same time, just not that road, but the adjoining streets for the local community.
Premier.
Anzac Day, have you been able to consult with the RSLs about whether or not our marches will be able to go ahead? It's going ahead in Queensland.
Oh, look, we've already started work with the RSL. Can I confirm that the Health Minister, as late as today, has been in touch with the RSL? For a sit-down event on Anzac Day, you can have up to 3,000 people in New South Wales. So I just wanted to make that clear. Health has given that tick-off, and the RSL, I understand at this stage, was proposing a march of 500 people. But if they want to review that and they want to increase the numbers, we are happy. Our health experts are happy to work with the RSL in relation to that. We want to make sure we have a safe event, but an event which is inclusive. And so just to be clear, our health experts have given official sign-off to a sit-down event of up to 3,000 people. And I understand the RSL has chosen at this stage to have a march of 500, if I'm not mistaken. But our Health Minister is in touch with the RSL. If they'd like to review their plans or put forward anything to our health experts which goes beyond that, we're more than happy to consider it. I want to send the strongest message out there that we want to keep our veterans and their families safe, but we also want people to recognise what is perhaps one of the most important days in our state and our nation's calendar. And more than ever, we should recognise sacrifice. And I understand why people want to make sure Anzac Day is as large and as safe and as successful as possible. But I want to stress that in New South Wales, Anzac Day will occur, but safely, and we'll also be providing, we already have, but also councils will be provided guidelines on how to conduct a safe march, and it's up to them how they do it within the guidelines. But to date, Health has ticked off on a sit-down event of up to 3,000 people, and I understand the RSL has a march at this stage with 500. However, we're more than happy to sit down with, or health experts are more than happy to sit down with the RSL to consider whether that should be reviewed upwards, depending on what's happening at the time.
There's a report today saying a Transport executive questioned how Darryl Maguire found out about the proposed route of the M9, and which kind of led to the Chinese developer buying up land through there in 2017. Do you have any concerns about how Maguire got that information, and are you concerned about leaks to get through that period?
Oh, look, I don't know anything about that issue, so it wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment. Anything else?
Victoria's announced the Royal Commission into Crown Resorts. Have you been surprised by the reaction to the Bergen report?
I guess New South Wales conducted the Bergen report for a reason, and I'm proud of the fact that our state took that effort. I'm proud of the fact that our regulators have been on top of the issue, and I'm pleased that other states are doing what they think is appropriate as well. Okay. Great. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day, everyone.